Now here we have a very dirty BMW 340i. When this car isn't being driven, it spends most of its time either parked underneath a tree or in an airport car park. Two suboptimal scenarios. Tree sap, bird mess, falling debris, combined with metallic fallout, soot and unburned hydrocarbons really is not the ideal scenario for this BMW's bedtime. Our job today is to remove any issues caused by these factors plus any pre-existing defects, and then make sure we're giving it the best chance possible of maintaining its mintness by protecting it with a durable ceramic coating. Like we do with most other cleans, we started the process with a pre-wash. Pre-wash is designed to remove loose dirt, road salt and grime before you even start to touch the paintwork. By applying a pre-wash solution and leaving it to dwell for a couple of minutes, it softens and loosens the contaminants. And once the contaminants are loose, you simply just jet wash them off. It's as simple as that. If you do skip this step, it usually means that you end up dragging all of that dirt and contaminants across the surface of the car with your wash mitt. And whilst this doesn't sound too serious, this essentially is how you end up with those minor scratches and swirls across the paint of your car. And there's more on that a little bit later. You may also have noticed that I was cleaning the wheels during this pre-wash process. You should always wash the wheels first, as they tend to be the dirtiest part of the car. After we finish the pre-wash, we snow foam the car. This snow foam is a lot thicker than what I'd normally use for just a standard clean, but there is method to the madness. I know I've just told you that the whole purpose of a pre-wash is to eliminate the likelihood of you scratching the surface of your paint. But in this scenario here, we already knew that we were going to be machine polishing the car. Because of this, and to save some time, we decided to skip the conventional contact wash process and go straight into clay barring the car. And in my humble and honest opinion, you don't get a better clay lube than snow foam itself. For those of you unfamiliar with clay, it's essentially used as a mechanical decontamination of the ingrained contaminants on the exterior of the vehicle. And by mechanical, I mean non-chemical, like your iron fallout removers or tar removers. If you've ever noticed black spots or other contaminants still on your car after you've taken it through a drive-through car wash or even an automated car wash, it's because they haven't used clay in their cleaning process. And it's absolutely essential that the paintwork is spotless and free of contaminants prior to polishing it. This is because any contaminants left on the car will get caught up in the polishing pad and either smeared across the paintwork, or it could even end up scratching the paintwork as you're polishing it, which obviously defeats the whole purpose of polishing it in the first place. After the car had been clayed, we jet washed it off for a final time and began the drying process. Usually when drying a car, we'd start with blowing off all of the exterior trim to get to the water that's hidden behind these panels, basically everywhere that the towel can't reach. However, today, Jason was eager to try out his new microfiber drying towel on a completely untouched, wet vehicle. You can see from this shot alone just how effective one pass of that microfiber drying towel was. And with that, it was back to our usual drying process by using the blower. Whilst this may seem over the top to most people, it's important to us to ensure that the car is bone dry prior to polishing, as any water that drips down behind wing mirrors, badges or grills as an example can be detrimental to the polishing process. This is because polishing relies on direct contact, controlled friction and heat between the pad, all factors which are nullified in the presence of water. Too little heat and the polishing won't work, too much heat and you can bust the panels, but I'll discuss that another time on another video. After we finished drying the car, we noticed that on the bonnet there were some etching marks. It looked to be a combination of both sap etching and water spot etching. Sap etching is caused again from being parked underneath trees. Sap contains sugars and resins that harden over time. As for the water spot etching, this is caused by stagnant water that's evaporated on the surface of the vehicle. When the water evaporates, minerals like calcium and magnesium remain on the surface, and under sunlight these deposits bake into the clear coat. There were also a number of minor scratches and swirls around pretty much every panel of the vehicle. And on top of this, on the boot, there was a very severe bird mess etch. Even though there was a bit of variance in how deep the scratches and the defects were around the car, none of them broke the clear coat, which was good news. It meant that all of the defects present on this car were repairable with a polishing mop. The majority of the paint defects were repairable simply by using cutting compound and finishing compound, However, some of the deeper defects required an element of wet sanding, which is what you can see here. When you wet sand paintwork, you are essentially sanding down a very thin layer of the clear coat, and in doing so, removing any defects within that layer. After wet sanding, I then moved on to using a cutting compound with a rotary mop. I loaded the polishing pad and the panel with the cutting compound and began polishing the panel in a cross-hatch motion with medium force. If you apply too much force when polishing, you run the risk of busting through the paint. And if this was to happen, the only way to fix it is to either respray the affected area or, even worse, respray the entire panel. The reason why I'm working in a cross-hatch motion is to balance the load and the wear of the pad. By working in two different directions, it spreads the abrasive contact of the pad across all of its surface, so the pad loads and wears more evenly, rather than creating a hot spot that again can burn through the paint. After the cutting compound, I then moved on to a finishing compound. I used the same cross-hatch motion and medium pressure, but this time I was using a dual action polishing mop. I found that rotary mops are far better at cutting, and dual action polishing mops are far better at finishing. They achieve a higher level of gloss and an even finish across all of the panels that you work. It's good practice to only polish small segments of the car at a time. You can see me doing this on the boot lid of this car. Working a small section lets you maintain consistent pressure, speed and pad contact, so the abrasive action removes defects evenly. If you try to cover an entire panel in one pass, you risk uneven correction and even missed spots. Working in small sections also ensures that the polishing product is worked and removed at the right moment, rather than drying out across a large area and leaving residue or haze on the painted panels. Whilst I was hard at work on this panel, the rest of the team was hard at work on other areas of the car, removing the defects and getting it ready to be ceramic coated. So you may be thinking, what exactly is a ceramic coating? Well, a ceramic coating is a liquid polymer that chemically bonds to the vehicle's paint to form a hard, glossy, water-repellent layer. It's a lot more durable than wax or other sealants that are available, and creates a long-lasting shine and, ultimately, protects your paint for longer. I know there were a lot of words there, so what I normally say when people ask me about ceramic coatings and what it is that it's essentially a thin layer of glass that sits on top of the paint of your car, and this thin layer of glass provides extra protection against scratches, swirl marks and general wear and tear, all whilst improving the gloss levels of your car, essentially making it look more shiny. Most ceramic coatings are also very hydrophobic. This means that water doesn't like sticking to it and often beads off. And whilst the benefits of this sound purely aesthetic, there are actually some practical elements to this too. First and foremost, and probably the most important, it improves visibility. On glass, ceramic coatings help clear the water from windscreens and mirrors, improving visibility in the rain. And not so safety related, but more detailing related, it actually makes the cars easier to clean. The beaded water carries away loose dirt and road film, so routine washes take less effort and time. And believe it or not, a ceramic coated car actually stays cleaner for longer. So here we have the finished results of a fully polished car. We've inspected the entirety of the painted surfaces of this car and ensured that any defects found have been removed, which is exactly what you want before applying a ceramic coating. The ceramic coating that we're using today is the G-Technic Crystal Serum Light. This has an expected lifespan of 3 years, so obviously if you haven't paint corrected your vehicle beforehand, all you're going to be doing is sealing in the existing defects for another 3 years of life. And obviously on the flip side of that, if you have paint corrected, which is exactly what we've done, you're ensuring that the surface of the paint is perfect for at least the next 3 years. After you've polished the car and before you apply the ceramic coating, it's important to remember to use an IPA wipe or an alcohol-based or dedicated degreasing solution to remove polishing oils, wax and light residues that may remain after polishing and washing. Applying a ceramic coating is a relatively simple concept. However, there is a lot that can go wrong. To start with, you apply a few drops of the ceramic coating onto a microfiber applicator pad. These are usually provided in the kits from the manufacturer. Once you've loaded the applicator pad, it's important to work in small sections. You apply a very thin, even coat with a crosshatch motion, just like we had done with the polishing mop. You apply the coating with this motion to ensure that there are no high or low spots on the panel, and again to ensure that you don't miss any parts of the panel. Once you finish one small section, it makes sense to move on to the next, but you must pay attention to how long the ceramic coating has been curing on the painted surface. G-Technic states that the flash time for this particular ceramic coating is around 1 minute. It can be as low as 30 seconds in hot environments, but because it was quite cold when we were detailing this car, we left it a little bit longer than 1 minute, around the 1 minute 20 second mark, before we wiped off the flashed residue. If you leave the ceramic coating on the panel to cure for too long, you run the risk of leaving high spots and streaks over the surface of the car. In addition to this, as the ceramic coating cures, you can physically see it turning white or hazy. If you don't remove the flash layer before it starts to turn this colour, the only way to remedy this is to sand it down using the same process as what I was doing for some of the deeper scratches. And by sanding it down, you're essentially removing the ceramic coated layer, and you'd have to start the whole process all over again. Once you've successfully ceramic coated one panel, move on to the next, and once you've done that panel, move on to the next after that. Just repeat this process until the entire exterior of the vehicle is ceramic coated. It's important to remember that when you're applying a ceramic coating, the car needs to be out of the elements. If the coating is exposed to rain or water during its curing time, it can have a catastrophic effect on how well it actually bonds to the painted and plastic surfaces. If you apply the ceramic coating in direct sunlight, it can heat up the panels and cause premature flashing, which causes the same defects that I've already discussed when you leave the ceramic coating to cure or flash for too long. And finally, if you're not applying a ceramic coating in a controlled environment, you run the risk of dust and airborne debris landing on the wet film and becoming trapped. With the ceramic coating being fully applied and it now curing, we moved on to the final finishing touches of the detail. And after 4 hours had passed, which is the minimum curing time recommended for this ceramic coating, it was time to hand back over to the customer. But before we do, just take a look through some of these shots, which shows what the car looked like when it came into us compared to what it looks like now it's leaving. Between the three of us, it took us around half a day to clean, polish and ceramic coat this car. It's safe to say that it came out incredibly well. And what came to us as a very dull and scratched BMW left looking more than factory fresh. Even I was surprised with how this blue, which came to us rather dull and flat, managed to pop on even an overcast day. I was happy, Grace was happy, even Jason was happy, but most importantly, the customer was happy. And that's what we're all about here at DRV. We don't work for ourselves, we work for the customer. And after all, the proof is in the detail.